All right, here we go. So welcome to how Cash tunes his snare drum in a variety of ways. All right, let's start busting through this. I'm gonna go quick. If you miss anything, the video is gonna be up on the Strum YouTube channel. Just go ahead and check it out there. Cool. So starting out with a drum that's already tuned, because I want to show the detuning process as well. Anytime you're tuning or detuning a drum, you want to go in a star pattern. So like you're drawing like those stars that you drew when you were like, like the really ugly like stars that look like that. I don't want to try and draw one because it's going to be hideous. So basically, what you're going to do, anytime you detune or tune a drum, find a lug to start on. I go down by half turns, so that's going to be a 180. So you grab your drum key, flip it around, and that's it. I'm very careful because I care a lot about my drum heads and my drums, and I want to be careful. I don't want to mess anything up. You don't want one side of the drum to be pulling too much over the other because you could damage the edge, the hoop, the head, a variety of things. So yeah, kind of bust through this. So you go across, and then what I do is I jump across to kind of the opposite tension rod here. And I have 10, so I'm going to try not to get confused. Drummers get confused easily. So I'm trying to go kind of across, and then I'll jump over here. There we go. Here, and then over here. There we go. And then over here, and then here. Okay, starting again. Back to where I started. Across. Make that kind of plus sign motion. Keep track of the ones I haven't touched yet. And then I'll go here, here, and then I'll hit this one, this one, this one, this one. Cool. And at this point, they're all loose enough to where you can kind of just go around now. There's not any like high tension, so you can go ahead and just take them all down from there. That's perfectly fine. You just want to be careful at those high tensions that you typically are at when it comes to both of the heads on a snare drum. Got to be careful. All right, cool. Now everything's loose. At this point, I will typically just use my fingers and loosen everything up. I'm not going to take the head off because I don't think I have time to kind of do that, but you know what? Maybe I should actually. Hang on. Because I think there's a lot of stick dust that's like stuck underneath here. So quick spin my drum key, get these all the way out. We're on time here. Let's see. Okay, cool. Yeah, at this point, doesn't really matter what order you go in. And I kind of did it different a couple times when I started out. And the main idea is you just kind of want to be hopping across. You don't want to just go around. I can't do a perfect star because it's a 10 lug drum, so kind of got lost a couple times. But as long as you're going like kind of across and loosening, you'll be fine. You just don't want one side of the drum pulling down harder than the other. That's kind of what you're trying to avoid there. Cool. Got most of these loose here. It's giving me trouble. There we go. One more that's still in a little bit. Okay. Couple more. There we go. Another one. Yeah, this one takes a little longer. This drum has 10 tension rods. Most drums have 8 or 6. This is a pretty expensive drum, so. Typically when I'm changing heads or doing this sort of thing, there's a lot of stick dust that builds up in the outside here, so you probably can't see it, but there is a lot of buildup on the inside of this hoop. So I'll usually just grab a cloth and wipe that down. Because I am a neat freak. I don't like stick dust everywhere. Who does? Give it a quick wipe down. Set that aside. And then when I take this head off, there's a bunch of stick dust on the outside of the hoop here. So I'm going to be really careful to dump that on this towel that I've prepared here. Kind of shake it off. Wipe the drum head down. Cool. Looks like we're good to go there. And then I'll give the edge of the drum a quick wipe down as well, because you never know what could, sweat, grease, whatever, water maybe if you spilled something, stick dust, stuff can build up. Wipe down the inside. Sometimes stick dust can fall down in there. You want to make sure there's nothing rattling around in there affecting your sound. Cool. Okay, that's taking off the top head. Flip it over. Take out this bottom head here. And this is kind of where we get to the snare wires. So you want to unlatch and loosen a little bit. And then there's these little, for anybody who doesn't understand the anatomy of a snare drum, there's these two little things that hold the snare wires on. You can usually use a drum key to just loosen those really quick. And wires should, the strap holding the wires should slide right out. And you've got one side of the wires. Loosen the other one. Oops. Loosen this one. Cool. And then you've got your snare wires with your two straps. Really quick thing for you guys. A lot of times when you buy snare wires, they come with those little plastic. These are made out of plastic, and I personally don't like the way that looks, and I don't like the way it sits against the bottom drum head. So I went out and bought a spool of this like black ribbon. I forget what was a name for it. It's black satin ribbon, I guess, and I use that for my straps on my snare wires. Rests against the bottom head a little gentler, and I like that a lot more. It makes me nervous when there's like plastic on plastic, I guess. So I like that a lot more. Definitely check that out. Set these aside. And then I'm just going to kind of really quickly do the same thing I did with the top head. Just loosen this bottom head here. Do my whole pattern here. Try to keep track of where I'm at. I realize it's harder with a 10 lug drum than I had originally anticipated. This one, that one, here. Do it one more time, just to be safe. Trying to keep track of where I'm at. It's kind of hard. Here we go. Boom. I'd say we're loose enough at this point where you can kind of just go for it. Like I said, just those maximum tensions you want to be careful about. Gonna loosen all these up. Take them out. And I guess there's never really really any like stick dust buildup on the bottom here. But just to be safe, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of go for it, just to make sure it's all clean. It's been a while since I've cleaned this drum anyways, so. Couple more. Cool. And then same thing. Take that hoop off. Give it a gentle wipe down. Get any like potential extra stuff you don't want. Anything can affect your drum sound, so you want to avoid any extra stuff hanging out. Looks like there is a little bit of stuff on this hoop or this drum head here, so I'm gonna also wipe that down as well. Who knows what that is? Dust, sweat, who knows? Cool. That, let's hit the outside of that snare drum as well. Wiping down, getting any extra dust, gunk, sweat, whatever. Cool. And so once that's all good, typically I would have a set of new heads ready, but I don't. Just showing you guys kind of how it's done. See how we're done on time here. All right, cool. We're on schedule. All right, so throwing the drum head back on, you want to find the you want to find on drums. This is the way drum builders do it. When you're putting heads on, you want to find the badge. You want to find the thing that has like the company that made the drum, like this thing right here. You can see it. There's a little hole, and it's got a logo around it. You can't see very well, but it's got the Ludwig insignia there. That's typically what they'll line up the logo of the drum head with. So like the insignia and vent hole, the air hole is facing you guys right now. So I'm going to put the logo of the drum head to match up with that so that it's nice and neat as well. And then I'm going to take my hoop and I'm just going to throw it back on. Definitely make sure that there's these little gashes in the bottom head hoop for the snare wires. Make sure those line up with, you guys can see it. Make sure that lines up with this thing and that thing as well. It would suck to put the entire hoop on and then realize you gotta take it off again and move it because you can't put your snare wires on. I've done that before. Very annoying. Cool, okay, so now I'm gonna make sure that's on there. Nice and good. Yeah, cool. All right, now I'm gonna start just finger tightening these down. Takes a while with these 10 lug drums here. Taking care of your drums requires a lot of patience, surprisingly enough. So the reason that I wanted to do these snare drum tuning workshops, or tuning workshops in general, is just because I spent so many hours on YouTube sorting through super non-detailed drum tuning videos and just trying to, nothing was really giving me the answer I was looking for, and I had to do a lot of like self-exploration and like figure a lot of stuff out on my own, ask a lot of questions to people and not get a whole lot of answers. And so this is kind of my way of giving you guys like, you know, that gift of making your instrument sound good and sound in a way you want it to. It's not fun to play an instrument that sounds bad, even if you can play that instrument well. So, yep. All right, so as you can see here, I'm kind of finger tightening everything. The reason for that is I want to get them, if I want all these to be even, I want there to be an even tension on the head, right? So it's like, you know, theoretically flat in its tension and pulled down equally on all sides. I'll get those I'll tighten those with my fingers to kind of get them all like relatively the same. That's one way you can do it. This one's kind of being stubborn, so I gotta use the key. I think it might need some lubrication. So I'm gonna get this one down to kind of about there. And you can finger tighten them as one option. That's kind of what's universally taught. That's not actually what I do, but it's the most common, so I like to mention it. But what I do, and I'll just show you on one of them for the sake of time, is I'll show you on this one right here. So what I'll do is instead of finger tightening, is I will start tightening it down with the key, and I'll go until it starts biting back. When the tension rod has made contact with the because our meeting is going to end in 10 minutes. Okay. Back to what I was saying. You're waiting until the key starts like pushing back, and that's when the tension rod has met the hoop. And I typically just get that on all of them, because then I can make sure they are like identical or pretty close, you know. We're going to do some adjusting down the road, but you know, this is a good starting point for me personally. Quicker. So I'll do it on all of them. I know I said I was going to just do it on one, but I got to do it my way. This is the way I know. Cool. Okay. So now that they're all like relatively the same, the head is obviously still very loose. To produce sound, a drum set needs to be semi-tight to tight. So we're going to go ahead and tighten it up. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and do same exact thing as I did when I was loosening it. 180 turns and kind of that star pattern I was showing you. Across, kind of tightening it down equally on all sides. So I'm going to kind of show that to you right now. Keep track of the ones I'm not hitting yet. I usually use a hand. I use a hand to keep track of the one I'm not looking at so that I don't lose track of it. And kind of a quick thing is, as you're tightening these up, you'll notice that some of the ones that you already finger tightened or did the hoop contact thing, you'll notice some of those have loosened up because the other side of the hoop has been pulled down. So you'll have to kind of redo the whole meeting the hoop thing with the tension rod. So be ready for that. Kind of weird. Happens at the beginning. So yeah, it happened on this one. This one was like loose. So now I got to redo fighting back. There we go. Boom. Okay. And then now I'm going to start moving a little quicker. And I usually do 4 of these for my bottom head. Your bottom head on your snare drum is a huge part of the sound. It's the resonant head is the head that produces the note that the drum rings out at. So this is the part of the drum that really sings, is this thinner, more ringy head, especially on toms. And then the top head is kind of the initial note and the initial texture and sound that is heard. So it hits the top head, moves through the bottom head, and that kind of produces your whole sound. And in regards to that, I've found that snare drums sound best with a really tight bottom head, kind of what is described as tabletop tight, if you will. I think I'm only gonna go like one more half turn. It's already seeming kind of tight. Let me go one more round of half turns here. And that should be pretty good, honestly. Okay, cool. How are we doing on time? All right, so kind of the next thing that I do is once I've got my 3 initial half turns in, 3 or 4, I think that's going to work pretty good right there. It's giving a little bit, but it's pretty tight. Here's the pitch. Cool. And so now what I'll do is I'll go around and I will make sure that these all have a relatively even tension, if you will. So I'll go ahead and listen. So they're not all the same. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to find the ones that are a little low, and I'm going to kind of go ahead and give those some love. And you got to be careful with this because when you tighten one, it's going to raise the pitch of all the other ones. So you got to be very gentle and kind of incremental in your tightening. And you're never going to get them all the same. That one's good. Hear that? Low, high. High, low, high. So I'll probably give this one even a little more love. That one's a little low. Bring it up a little bit. This one's higher. High, low, high. So I'm probably going to target this one a little more. Okay, so they're all relatively similar. You're never going to get them exact. Kind of, sorry. Okay, and then kind of a quick thing is on snare drums, they build they implement what is called a snare bed. So around the snare wires lay across this head like this, and to get them to lay perfectly flat, what they do is they kind of the head or the edge of the drum kind of dips down right where those wires lay, and that's going to be right at here, right between these two tension rods is where that first snare bed is going to go, and then right between these two tension rods are where that snare bed is going to go. So what you're looking for on the bottom head is all of the tension rods around the snare beds are going to be naturally lower. And I don't see any need to compensate for that by over tightening them. They're just going to be naturally a little bit lower, and that's perfectly fine. I usually go for these 6, kind of the outside non-snare bed tension rods, and I'll make sure those are at least pretty even. A little bit of love on that one. It's a little low. These 2 are good. This one's a little low. And then I'll probably just give the snare bed a little bit of love. But I definitely don't over tighten it. So yeah, really quick in this last minute or so, we're gonna what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to open up a new call. We're gonna have to leave the call and just come back to it because they have a 40-minute limit on these video calls. So I'll go ahead and do a part 2 right after this. But really quick before we finish up, how much time do I have? Less than a minute. Okay, well I guess I have less than a minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause.